What's up, guys? So today I'm going to try to see if I could diagnose this pesky oil leak that I have. It's just been bothering me because I've been putting on the oil pan catch pan, and it's just a pet peeve of mine. I have to put it every single time I park the car in the garage. So what I did was I got myself some brake parts cleaner and just hosed it down with that, since all of this was just embarked with oil. So it took about a can and a half just to get the majority of the cleaning done, and then after try to see if I could pinpoint exactly where this leak is coming from, because it seems like it's coming from the top too, because most of these parts is soaked. I was kind of thinking it would be the oil pan, but it's just coming from the top also, so I'm just gonna try to figure out exactly what to do with this. I thought it was gonna be easy, but frankly it's not. I obviously took off the wheel. I unbolted the two excuse me, I have a cold going on right now. I took off the two 10 millimeter nuts that pertain to the tensioner, but there's an issue. It comes into the bracket, the tensioner bracket to the drive belt. So the bracket goes from right there and then starts to lead itself towards the middle of the engine. So it's actually hitting on the bracket. So I have to remove the bracket itself, in which I started taking away the harness right here. Looks like I'm gonna have to take off the air pump, because looks like I need to take off the motor mount since that's in the way. I'm limited on tools at the moment, so I have some wrenches, I have some sockets, but I tried squeezing in a socket and it doesn't work. And then my wrenches are obviously way too small to get in there, so I need probably a long extension ratchet, a wrench, ratchet wrench, so I could be more comfortable to take that off. The other thing that I'm thinking, okay, so it's getting late on me, so I popped out the light. Sun is going down. So I started by taking this out of the way. There's a bracket here for the power steering. You just grab yourself a pick or a screwdriver, whatever you can fit in here, and then pull on the clip right here and pull on the reservoir, and it comes right out. Next, what I did was actually decided to take out the air pump. So I got that out of the way, and by doing so I had to retrieve the two bolts right there, in which they are 12 millimeters, I believe. Let me check right here real quick. Yep, it's 12 millimeters. And then I retrieve the clamps back, followed by this one. This one's a little bit more harder to get. That's the reason why I decided to take the reservoir out of the way. So I really can't get it off. So what I did is actually pinched it with the tool right here and pulled on the reservoir. I mean the pump, on the air pump. I just pulled it out. So it's gonna be a little bit of pain. Next, I'm gonna do the motor mount, take that out. But first, I'm gonna jack up the car just a bit with some blocks. Okay, next I decided to crack every single 14 mil bolt. One right there, one right there, one right there, And 2 whitetail and whitetail. Whitetail, whitetail, whitetail. So, crack them. Don't take them out, just crack them. And then, go ahead, grab your jack. And then, grab your resource wood that you have. Wife is into arts and crafts, so this is a resource I have. You start jacking up. Slowly but surely. Just until you start seeing the engine go up. Just a bit. Now I have my car on a jack stand right now, so I don't want to go too nuts with it. So just enough for it to actually go up. Now I'm about to go up with it. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. You see a little bit of movement. I'm not sure if you can see it. I definitely saw it, but it's just a bit of a movement. Now, I don't want to go too nuts with it for the fact that, like I said, I have my car in a jack stand right now, so I don't want to move the whole engine, otherwise the car will go up just a bit and make it out of place. So, that being said, I am now going to take out the rest of the remaining bolts right here for the motor mount, and take out the motor mount so I could have more access to the bracket for the tensioner for the drive belt, and get that squared away for that pesky oil leak that I hate having now for the past 2 years I've had the car now. Now you're going to be going back and forth moving this harness around, so just be very careful not to kink or mishandle the cables that are inside here, so just be very gentle moving it back and forth. If you need to, also put back the bolts on the holes, if you know, so you guys could remember exactly where they go. If you have good memory, good for you. I honestly don't have good memory, so I'll probably just put them back as soon as I'm done taking out this last bolt. But basically in total there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts in total that I have to take out. Okay, so I finally got the motor mount off. I didn't realize, I'm not sure why it has too many bolts, but the 2 bolts are actually connected to the engine block. Underneath you got to take off an additional 2 nuts, so it's actually 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 nuts and bolts in total. So in order for you to access the bottom 2 of the motor mount, I grab my extension, if I can find it, grab my extension and actually just went underneath the car and cracked them and got them out. Since you already took off the motor mount, you might as well diagnose and see if it's good. Mine looks like it could be replaced. I just trying to be stingy and not waste money. If you start to see that this part right here starts to rub against the metal of the of the housing, then you're definitely due for a motor mount. It's starting to sag. So mine is cracked and it's starting to show some age, but it's not completely out, so I'm just gonna hold off on this. Now that I have access to the bracket, I'm gonna try to see if I could use the tools that I have here available to me, just by using a regular wrench, and see if I could take that out. If not, then I might have to run to the store and get some more tools. Okay guys, so it's the next day. I jacked up the car just a bit. Take that back. I jacked up the motor, and the reason why I jacked it up is for the fact that a couple things. There's a bolt that goes right there it's a pretty long bolt, and you cannot take it out completely unless you jack up the motor. I probably didn't try it enough, but if you just, maybe you don't even need to jack up the car. Maybe you do. I don't know. But I just realized that with that bolt, let me zoom in. With that bolt right there, even if it just hits the frame of the car, that's fine. I would say I didn't try it, but since I already jacked up the engine, we're just gonna avoid that. But even if it just hits the frame of the car, you don't need to completely take off the bracket for the fact that you just want to slide it just towards you just a bit to take off the tensioner, the timing chain tensioner. So just loosen up that bolt, and you take off this guy right here. If I can zoom in. Come on, where's it getting? Oh, right there, the top of the shock. That nut you do need to take out. So once you take out that nut on top of the shock, sorry, I can't zoom in. There we go. Once you take off that nut and taking off some tension off the bolt right there. So basically 2 pieces, you slide the bracket towards you just a bit, and then you could pull out your tensioner. Once you pull it out, you have this with you. Basically what you do is you press on this right here, press down, go down, and then there's this hook, in which I didn't see. It took me a while to find out exactly how to pin this down. I thought I was gonna be locking automatically as soon as I press this down, it'll lock, but that's not the case. I didn't know it had a hook right here. So you take out this hook and you go like that, and it locks it in place until you release the tension on it. It'll pop back up, but that's a whole different story. So we're gonna put this back on and then put the new seal, which I have somewhere. Put the new seal in. Of course, you oil it up first. I recommend using multi-purpose grease, which I don't have at the moment, so oil will have to do for this. So you oil it up with any type of oil, engine oil, whatever oil you're using, and put it back in. This is the one that came out of it. Trying to see if it could get some. It's a little bit toasted and caked, but camera won't pick it up. But you could see, I could actually feel it too. It's a bit brittle, not too much brittle, but you could definitely feel that, a little bit of cracks going on right here. The other thing I want to mention is too, when you're jacking up the car, you'll start to see in the engine. When you start to jack up the engine, you'll start to see the engine being jacked up. You'll finally feel a point in the jack in which, you're starting to feel tension on the engine. So that's when you completely stop. Don't overforce it, because you're going to damage the rest of your motor now. So once you feel tension, that is it. You can't go any further. What else? Oh, to release the tension, what sockets I use to take out that bolt and the nut. I decided to get myself a Ratching Wrench, which it's pretty long, so that helped out a lot. So if you have small little tiny, I would say hand long wrenches, yeah, you're gonna struggle a bit, because that bolt for that tensioner, geez, it was definitely stuck in there. It probably cracked on me twice, and by cracking, I felt the tension of the bolt just cracking until I felt it loose. So it was definitely tight. So be ready for that. So that's basically it. Oh, releasing the tension. I decided to unloosen the main bolt. unloosen the main bolt of the bracket just a bit, and then you see what looks like a nut, but it's not really a nut. It's basically just a mold of a 19 mil. I think it is a 19 mil. Yeah, 19 mil or 18, one of the two. Let's see here. Yeah, it's a 19. So you basically have that mold figured looking type of nut. That's basically just a mold. You grab your 19 mil wrench and just pry it towards the front of the car. So once you start prying it towards the front of the car, it starts to release the tension of the drive belt, and then you can take off the drive belt. Followed by, starting to unloosen more of the bolt and taking off the nut, top nut of that where the shock is located. Okay, next we're gonna put back the tensioner. The side that has the ribs. The side that has the ribs, you basically want to point it towards the passenger side of the car, just like that. So again, the bracket itself is just slid over just a bit for us to have access to putting it back and taking this pain in the ass back in or out. Find your hole, find your nuts, find your bolts. It's pretty hard. You can't see garbage, but you just gotta find the hole, use the force. There we go. Now guys, this is basically dump proof, because if you move around the tensioner itself and you try to install it, if you're unsure if you're going to install it the wrong way, you're not, because you can only install it one way. It won't let you install it the wrong way. So don't be scared of putting it the right way, because there's only one right way and not a bad way. So don't be sweating on that. Okay, so now that you put that in, you grab your nuts, which I have them right here, and instead of using a big 3/8 drive socket and wrench, you could use a 1/4 inch wrench, and just, it's a lot more easier for you to tighten and unloosen your small nuts right there, because if you use the mid-size ratchet wrench and the bulkier socket, which is a 3/8, it's going to be a lot more harder for you to work around that. So the shock for the bracket is right there where I'm banging the ratchet at, and then where you want to put your wrench at is right there, and you pull towards the front of the car, just like that, and you'll grab some tension. Manhandle it. Manhandle it. I'll post up a picture so you guys can screenshot it of the diagram for the drive belt, how you're supposed to route it. The other thing is that the main bolt for the bracket is still a little bit loose, not by much, just a little bit. Same thing with the upper nut where the shock is at. So just make sure you have those two a little bit loose, so you can move around the tension on your tensioner for your drive belt and put it back together. Alright guys, so it's the next day. I finally wrapped it up. Everything was pretty much straightforward from here on out. The air pump, basically you have two clamps, one hose running towards the radiator down to the front of the car, and the other one's the side of the block, the head. So you just clamp those in, plug in your sensor, your 2 bolts. The other thing is, what else? Power steering reservoir, that goes back. Then I forgot to do the 2 bolts, because there's actually 3, 5, 7 bolts in total for the motor mount. The last 2 for the motor mount, they're actually nuts, in which they go underneath the motor mount, and you actually have to fish in those 2 nuts from underneath the car, put them on there underneath the motor mount, and then just screw them on, and then tighten them down. Other than that, it's just basically putting it on the wheel. But that is pretty much it. Oh, and the strut itself. The other thing is that I used some cardboard. I lay it down right here, put my knees right here on the frame, not on the grill, on the frame, and then just basically pitched myself towards the back of the head and worked around, retrieving the tensioner, or taking out the bolts, or the nuts, or putting back in the nuts. It's a lot more easier, because then your legs will start to freeze up once you're inside of the car itself. So that will be another method that's a little bit more helpful for you guys.